A millionaire stood frozen, watching his pregnant ex-wife serve tables at a near-empty diner. Michael hadn't planned to stop. He just needed coffee. But fate had other ideas. Vanessa walked out with a tray in her hands, her eyes tired, her steps heavy. The curve of her belly pressed tight against her uniform. She didn't flinch when she saw him. Didn't pause. Just set the drinks down and turned away. 8 months ago, she was Deo's wife. Now she was a waitress, and maybe carrying his child. Michael couldn't speak, couldn't swallow. The room felt smaller, the silence louder. She vanished behind the kitchen door like nothing had happened, but everything had. Rain hammered the windows that night. Vanessa stood by the doorway, holding his suitcase. "You're leaving now?" she asked, voice low. Michael checked his watch. He was already late. "It's just one meeting. I'll be back before the weekend." She didn't move. The storm outside matched the silence between them. "It's always just one meeting," she whispered. He stepped past her, grabbed his coat, and opened the door. Wind pushed back like it wanted him to stay. She didn't stop him. He didn't look back. The elevator closed. The last thing he saw was her hand still holding the suitcase. Not waving, not shaking, just still. That deal made him $10 million. But tonight all he could remember was the sound of her breathing in the dark. Alone. The test showed 2 pink lines. Vanessa sat on the edge of the tub, hands shaking. The bathroom was quiet. Too quiet. She stared at the small stick in her palm, then set it on the counter like it burned. No celebration. No tears. Just silence. She reached for her phone. Her thumb hovered over Michael's name. Then she locked the screen, placed the phone face down. He was probably boarding a flight, or closing another deal. She looked at her reflection. Pale, tired, eyes full of questions she didn't want answered. That night she wrapped the test in tissue and tucked it inside a drawer, far in the back, hidden. Not because she was ashamed, because she already knew. Some truths hurt more when said out loud. Jessica made sense. She was polished, organized, calm. Dinner with her meant white wine, soft music, and no unexpected questions. Michael appreciated that. No guilt, no weight, just plans, neat and predictable. She laughed at his stories, never asked about his past, never said the name Vanessa. Still, something always felt missing. The house was spotless but cold. Conversations were smooth but shallow. One night he opened a drawer in Jessica's kitchen, looking for a spoon. Instead he saw baby's socks, tiny knitted ones. He froze. They weren't hers, they weren't his, just a gift someone left behind. Jessica walked in. "You okay?" she asked, sipping wine. Michael forced a smile, but in his chest, a silence he couldn't name began to grow. Vanessa moved into a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. The walls were thin. The stairs creaked. But it was hers. She worked double shifts, mornings at a pharmacy, nights at a diner. Each paycheck disappeared into savings, diapers, doctor visits, rent. There was no crib yet, just a folded blanket in the corner, no stroller, only a list stuck to the fridge with prices she couldn't afford. She talked to the baby sometimes, quietly, while washing dishes. "I don't know how we'll do this," she'd whisper, "but I'll be here. That much I promise." No baby shower, no one asking if she needed help, just one woman, one heartbeat inside her, and the quiet belief that love on its own had to be enough. Michael sat across from Jessica at breakfast. He finally said it. "I saw Vanessa last night. She's pregnant." Jessica didn't look up from her phone. "Is it yours?" "I don't know," he replied quietly. Jessica sipped her coffee. No change in her tone. "Well, you're not with her anymore. That's what matters." Michael blinked. She kept scrolling. "I just thought you should know," he said. Jessica nodded, eyes still on the screen. "Thanks for telling me." The silence that followed wasn't cold, it was empty, like nothing had landed, nothing had weight. Michael stared at his plate. Why? The eggs had gone cold, and for the first time since meeting Jessica. He realized she didn't ask how he felt, not once. Michael came back the next night, same diner, same hour. Vanessa was wiping down a table near the window. She saw him, but didn't flinch. He walked over, stopped a few feet away. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice low. She didn't answer, just kept cleaning. "I didn't know," he added. "About the baby." Still nothing. She picked up a salt shaker and walked to another table. "Then Vanessa." "Please?" She looked at him finally, but only for a second, then turned her back. The message was clear. Whatever he wanted, it wasn't welcome here. Michael stood there, hands in his pockets. The words in his chest didn't matter, because she had already heard them once before when they were too late. Michael finished his coffee and slid a folded bill under the edge of the plate. More than the check. Much more. Vanessa walked by, tray in hand. She paused, saw it, said nothing. Minutes later she returned, quiet, steady. She picked up the bill, unfolded it, and placed it gently in front of him. No words. No look, just a simple gesture that said, "I don't need your money." She turned away, moving to another table. Her steps were slow but certain. Michael stared at the bill. He didn't reach for it. He understood. What she wanted wasn't money. It was the one thing he hadn't given her when it would have mattered most. Jessica stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You went back there again?" Michael didn't answer right away. She stepped closer. "I'm not doing this. If you still have feelings for her, just say it." "It's not about feelings," he said quietly. "She's pregnant. That matters." Jessica shook her head. "No, what matters is us. Me. Now." Michael looked down. His hands were clenched. He hadn't realized. Jessica's voice dropped. "Choose, Michael. Her or me, because I won't be second to a memory." He didn't argue. Didn't explain. That silence told her everything. She grabbed her coat, slammed the door, and for the first time in weeks, Michael didn't go after her. Michael parked across the street from the clinic. He didn't plan to follow her, but when he saw her walking alone, he stayed. Vanessa sat in the waiting room, arms wrapped around her belly. No one next to her, no hand to hold. A nurse called her name. She stood, adjusted her coat, and disappeared down the hall. Michael stayed in the car, window half down, hands frozen on the steering wheel. Through the glass he could see everything, but had no place in it. 15 minutes passed. She came back out holding a small printout, the ultrasound. She looked at it, then folded it slowly like it might break. Michael lowered his head. She had done all of it alone, and he had no excuse. Michael waited outside the clinic. When Vanessa stepped out, he approached, careful, unsure. "I saw you," he said. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay." She stopped but didn't face him. "I'm fine," she replied. Her voice was calm but final. "I want to help," he added. "Anything you need?" She turned, eyes sharp. "You left, Michael, when I needed you most." He opened his mouth, but no words came. Vanessa held up the ultrasound photo. "This isn't a second chance. This is my life now." She stepped back, one hand resting on her belly. "I don't need you," she said quietly, "and my child doesn't either." Then she walked away, and this time he didn't follow. He just watched, knowing that some doors don't close with a slam. They close with silence. Michael sat on the edge of his bed, hands resting on an old wooden box. He hadn't opened it in months, maybe years. Inside, papers, photos, loose coins, and near the bottom, a small bracelet, worn leather, a silver charm shaped like a leaf. Vanessa had given it to him after their first road trip, said it reminded her of the way he drove, calm, steady. He ran his thumb across the surface. The leather was cracked now, faded, but still intact. He held it up, staring, not at the bracelet, but at everything it carried. Memories that didn't shout. They whispered. Late-night laughs, shared fries, rain on the windshield. He closed his hand around it tight, and for the first time in weeks he realized he hadn't just lost a partner. He'd walked away from a whole life. Michael left the small box on her doorstep. No note, no name, just a ribbon tied tight inside, a soft onesie, a pair of newborn socks, and a pacifier with tiny stars. He stepped back, waited across the street. Minutes later, Vanessa opened the door. She saw the box, looked around, then knelt down. She opened it slowly. Her hands paused at the sock, but her face didn't change. She closed the lid, stood up, and walked back inside, left the box where it was. Michael didn't move. A gust of wind knocked the ribbon loose. The box tilted slightly, but didn't fall. That night he sat in his car longer than usual, not because he hoped she'd call, but because something in him finally understood. Some wounds aren't waiting to be healed. Jessica held the baby box in her hands. She dropped it on the table. "So this is where you've been?" Michael didn't answer. "I knew it," she snapped. "You're still chasing guilt." She paced the kitchen, voice rising. "She doesn't want you. She made that clear, but you keep showing up. Why?" Michael stayed quiet, arms folded, eyes low. Jessica stepped closer. "You think this makes you noble, running after a mistake you walked away from?" He exhaled slowly. Not defensive, not sorry, just tired. Jessica's voice cracked. You can't fix this and keep me. It doesn't work like that. Still, he said nothing. Silence filled the room like smoke. Thick, heavy. Jessica picked up her keys. You already chose, she said. And this time she was right. Vanessa leaned against the alley wall behind the diner, one hand on her belly, the other gripping her phone, but not dialing. Michael had just pulled up. He wasn't there for her, just passing, until he saw her slide down to the ground. He rushed over. Are you okay? She didn't argue, didn't tell him to leave. Her face was pale, her breath short. He helped her into the car, carefully, without a word. At the ER, he stayed close but quiet, filled out forms, answered questions, waited. Vanessa didn't thank him, didn't scold him either. They sat in silence as nurses moved around them. And for the first time in a long time, Michael wasn't looking for permission to stay. He just did. Michael sat in the hallway chair, back straight, eyes fixed on the floor, hands folded tight. Across the wall, a clock ticked louder than it should. Nurses passed by, but no one spoke to him. Vanessa was inside. Getting checked, getting answers. He didn't pace, didn't check his phone. He just stayed. Minutes turned into nearly an hour. Still, he waited. When the door opened, Vanessa stepped out. She looked tired, but steady. Their eyes met for half a second. She didn't smile. But she didn't look away. He stood up, slow, careful. Didn't ask how she felt. Didn't offer to carry her bag. Just walked beside her, matching her steps, one quiet stride at a time. And for the first time, she didn't stop him. Vanessa didn't say he could come, but she didn't tell him to stay away either. The next appointment, he showed up early, waited in the car until she walked in. She glanced at him in the waiting room, then sat 2 chairs away. When the nurse called her name, she stood, paused, then looked back once. You comin'? She asked, quiet, almost annoyed. But it was enough. Michael rose without a word. Inside, he stayed to the side, watched the monitor, watched her face. The baby's heartbeat filled the room. Vanessa didn't speak, but she didn't flinch when he leaned closer. Afterward, as they walked out, she handed him the ultrasound print. Hold it, she said. Just that. And in that tiny slip of trust, he felt something shift. Jessica didn't leave with yelling. No tears, no scene. She packed in silence, one drawer at a time. Shoes, books, the mug he never used. Michael sat on the couch, watching her zip the last bag. I hope you find what you're looking for, she said. He nodded once. Not in anger, not in regret, just honest understanding. I'm sorry, he whispered. She paused at the door. For what? She asked. For all of it, he replied. She didn't answer. Just walked out, heels clicking once on the floor, then gone. Michael stayed seated. The house didn't feel empty. It felt quiet in a way that finally made sense. He wasn't chasing love anymore. He was choosing something harder, but real. Michael sat at the kitchen table, just a pen, a blank sheet, and silence. He didn't rewrite the words. Didn't try to make them sound better. He just wrote what mattered. Vanessa, I'm not trying to fix the past. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking for anything except this. Let me show up. Let me be a father, not to make things right, but because it's the only thing that feels right now. Michael. He folded the letter, slipped it into an envelope, wrote her name, no address. The next day, he left it at her door. No knock, no call, just walked away. Not because he didn't care, but because finally he did. Vanessa found the envelope tucked beneath her doormat. No stamp, no return address, just her name, written in his hand. She stood by the counter as she read it, line by line, word by word. Her fingers trembled by the end. She sat down slowly, letter resting on her lap. No one else was in the room, no one to see her face soften, or the single tear that slipped down without warning. She wiped it away, but didn't rush, didn't fold the letter, didn't hide it. For the first time, she didn't fight the weight in her chest. She just let it sit there, real, heavy, human. And for a moment, she didn't feel so alone. The doctor spoke gently, but the words landed hard. Your tests show low motility, severely. Michael, it's unlikely you'll be able to father children naturally again. Michael stared at the chart in his hands. It didn't look different than the others, but it was. He didn't ask questions, didn't argue, just nodded once, then left. In the parking lot, he sat in his car, keys untouched in the ignition. Through the windshield, the sky looked normal. But everything inside him had shifted. That child Vanessa was carrying might be the only one he'd ever have. Not just his child, his last chance to be a father. And suddenly this wasn't about guilt anymore. It was about something much deeper, and far more permanent. Michael sat in the driver's seat, hands still, engine off. The paper from the doctor rested on the passenger seat, unread now, but not unknown. He stared through the windshield, but didn't really see. Then it came, quiet at first. A breath caught. A blink that burned. One tear, then another. He gripped the steering wheel, forehead resting against it. His shoulders shook, slow and heavy. No sound, no screaming, just grief, thick and silent. He had built empires, closed deals, survived storms, but he had never cried like this. Not for loss, not for failure. But for the one thing he could never undo, it says leaving too soon. And realizing too late what could never be replaced. Jessica stood at the door, arms crossed. "I made a mistake," she said, "but we still have the time to fix this. If you walk away now, it's for good." Michael didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked. "I'm not walking away," he said softly. "I already did, back then." She stepped closer. "So, choose. Me, or that as a life you left behind." He shook his head. "It's not about choosing between people. It's about choosing who I want to be now." Jessica's eyes narrowed. "You're throwing this away." Michael nodded. "I know." She waited. He didn't move. This time she left slower, but it still felt final. And when the door closed behind her, he didn't feel empty. He felt clear. Vanessa met him outside the clinic, arms folded, eyes guarded. "You're still here?" she asked. Michael nodded. "I'm not here to ask for another chance." She waited. "I know what I left, and I know what I lost, but this—" He glanced at her stomach. "This is still mine to stand for." Vanessa didn't speak. "I won't crowd you, I won't expect anything, but if this child comes into the world needing a father, I'll be there." She searched his face for something. Pity, guilt, hope. There was none. Just steadiness. She nodded once. Small, barely seen. And that was enough. Not forgiveness, but space to begin something new. The call came just after midnight. Michael didn't ask questions. He just drove. At the hospital, Vanessa was already in a wheelchair, breath short, face tight. She saw him. Didn't speak. Just nodded toward the elevator. He took the handles, guided her in. No small talk, no questions, just presence. Inside the delivery room, she gripped the edge of the bed. Michael stood by her side. Quiet, steady. She reached for his hand. He gave it without hesitation. No promises, no apologies, just fingers locked through pain. A nurse asked, "Father?" Vanessa answered. "Yes." He didn't smile, didn't cry, but his grip tightened slightly, and in that silence something unspoken passed between them. Not as lovers, but as two people facing the same beginning. The nurse placed the newborn in his arms. Michael froze, tiny fingers curled near his chest, eyes barely open, breathing soft. He looked down. At the face he didn't know, but somehow recognized. His arms trembled, not from weight, but from what it meant. Vanessa watched from the bed, silent. He tried to speak. Nothing came. No words could carry it. The ache, the joy, the ache inside the joy. His eyes stung. He blinked, slow and long. One tear dropped onto the blanket. He didn't wipe it away. The child shifted, yawned, then rested still in his arms. And in that moment, Michael Carter finally understood what it meant to stay. They didn't move in together. Didn't wear rings. Didn't make promises they couldn't keep. But every Thursday, Michael picked up diapers. Every Saturday, Vanessa left a list on the fridge. He followed it. They passed Liam back and forth like rhythm. Never rushed, never forced. Sometimes they ate together, mostly for the baby. He held the bottle. She folded the laundry. Conversation stayed simple. Appointments, sleep schedules, teething gel. But in the quiet, there was peace. Not love the way it used to be, but something steady, something shared. Vanessa no longer looked at him with anger, just tired trust. Michael didn't ask for more. He had enough. In the soft weight of his son's hand and the silent agreement that they'd both show up. Liam wobbled on the small blue bike. Training wheels off, knees tense, eyes wide. Michael crouched beside him, one hand on the seat. "You've got it," he said, calm and steady. "Don't let go yet," Liam whispered. "I won't," Michael replied. "But you will." He ran beside him, then slowly eased his hand away. Liam pedaled, shaky at first, then straighter. Laughter broke from his chest, free, light. Across the park, Vanessa stood by a tree, coffee in hand, watching. She didn't call out, didn't interrupt, just smiled. Not because Liam was writing, but because Michael stayed. Through the falls, the tears, the do it again, the sun caught her eyes for a moment, and in that brief, quiet frame, everything felt exactly as it should. The cake was small, one candle, blue frosting, sticky fingers. Liam clapped as they sang, his cheeks full of crumbs, eyes bright. Michael sat on one side, helping him hold the spoon, Vanessa on the other, fixing his bib. No decorations, no big party, just the three of them at a kitchen table, laughing soft, sharing slices. At one point, Liam reached out both arms, one hand to each of them. Vanessa looked up. Michael met her eyes. No words. No labels. Just a moment that didn't need defining. They cleaned together, stacked paper plates, picked up crumbs. Liam toddled around their feet, humming nonsense. It wasn't the family they planned, but it was the one they built. And in that quiet room, no rings, no vows. There was something stronger than promises. Presence. Michael Zell sat by the window. Liam was asleep down the hall. The night was quiet. No deals, no meetings, no noise. Just time. He opened a notebook, tore out one clean page, and wrote, "Son, I've walked away from things in my life. Too many. But not this. Not you. I don't know how to be perfect, but I know how to show up, even when it's hard, even when I'm dead, because you're worth staying for. I once thought success meant leaving nothing behind, but now I know real success is having someone to walk beside. I'm not asking you to understand now. Just know this. Your father didn't quit this time. He stayed. Dad," he folded the page, slid it into a drawer, not for today, but for someday.